So why don't you use the regular army? What do you need us for?
Damn fool accused you of being the best.
There was a moment in the Mexican jungle when Arnold Schwarzenegger, covered in mud, exhausted, and sick, looked at the director and said, "This is never going to work." And he was right, until everything changed. The story behind Predator isn't just the making of a legendary action movie. It's the fight to save a production worth over $15 million that came days away from destroying the careers of everyone involved. After the box office disaster of Red Sonja in 1985, Arnold needed a hit. His career as an action star was on the edge. Studios were beginning to doubt whether the guy with the Austrian accent could really carry a movie without the name Terminator in the title. When the script for Predator landed in his hands, Arnold saw something different. It wasn't just another action movie. It was Rambo meets Alien. Elite commandos versus something they couldn't see or understand. But there was one huge problem no one mentioned in the pre-production meetings. No one knew what the Predator was supposed to look like. The producer brothers, Joel Silver and John Davis, had hired a designer to create the alien. They spent months and tens of thousands of dollars on a special suit. When it was time to start filming in Mexico, everyone was excited to finally see the monster in action. But what they saw was a nightmare, and not in the right way. The suit looked like a cheap B-movie lizard, bright red with bulging eyes, jaws that wouldn't close properly. And worst of all, it was being worn by Jean-Claude Van Damme himself. Van Damme had been hired because he was only 1.77 meters tall, and the producers thought a smaller, more agile monster would be more threatening. They were right about the agility. Van Damme was doing flying kicks even inside the suit. The problem was that no one wanted to see an alien doing karate. To make things worse, the heat of the Mexican jungle was unbearable. Van Damme would pass out inside the suit every 20 minutes. He complained constantly. Eventually, after a few days, he exploded. "I'm not a stuntman, I'm an actor." And he quit. Others say he was fired. The truth is probably somewhere in between. But here comes the part that almost killed the movie. Without Van Damme and with a creature design that didn't work, director John McTiernan had to completely shut down production. Not for a few days. For 8 months, 300 crew members, Arnold Schwarzenegger under contract, sets built deep in the jungle, equipment rented, hotels paid for, and filming simply stopped. Fox executives wanted to cancel everything. They had spent millions and had nothing usable. McTiernan flew back to Los Angeles with just 1 hour of unedited footage. He sat with the producers in a screening room and showed them what they had. Soldiers running through the jungle, explosions, some dialogue, but no believable monster. "We need more money or this ends here," he told them. It was at that moment of total desperation that someone had an idea. Call Stan Winston. Stan Winston was the man behind Terminator, the genius of practical effects. But he had a problem. He was busy. And when he finally agreed to help, he had only 6 weeks to design and build a completely new Predator from scratch. 6 weeks to save a movie worth more than $15 million. While Stan Winston was working in Los Angeles, redesigning the Predator, things in Mexico were getting worse. The production had chosen to film in Palenque, Chiapas, deep in the tropical jungle. On paper, it sounded perfect. Dense, primitive, remote. In reality, it was a living hell. Temperatures exceeded 38 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, every single day. Humidity hovered around 90%. The actors could barely breathe. Arnold, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura, and the rest of the cast were covered head to toe in full tactical military gear. Vests, boots, and heavy metal prop weapons. Every scene was physical torture. But the heat was only the beginning. The Mexican Film Union had forced the production to hire 300 local technicians. Sounds reasonable, right? Supporting the local economy. The problem was that most of them had nothing to do. McTiernan only needed a crew of maybe 80 people. But union rules were clear. Either you hire 300 or you don't shoot in Mexico. So every shooting day, there were literally hundreds of people standing around with no clear function. Some slept under trees. others played cards, and the production paid them full wages. After the first chaotic week, McTiernan finally sent half the crew home, but kept paying them anyway. Money was being burned while the budget evaporated. And then there were the illnesses. Almost the entire cast and crew got sick at some point. Dysentery, stomach infections, venomous insect bites. Sonny Landham, who played Billy, was so volatile and unpredictable that the studio had to hire a full-time bodyguard for him, but not to protect him, to protect everyone else from him. Arnold himself lost several pounds due to constant dehydration. Carl Weathers nearly quit 3 times. Jesse Ventura, the former professional wrestler and Navy SEAL, later said it was the most brutal experience of his life, and he had been in real combat. But none of that compared to the biggest technical problem they faced. The thermal camera didn't work. One of Predator's most iconic ideas is the creature's thermal vision. That red and yellow image where the Predator sees its prey through body heat. It's unforgettable, it's terrifying. And it almost never happened. The original plan was simple: use real thermal cameras. But when the technical crew arrived in the jungle with the equipment, they discovered a devastating problem. The thermal camera cable only extended 4 feet from the Ranker production truck. 4 feet, in the middle of a dense jungle where shots needed to be filmed from 50 to 100 feet away. Things were already chaotic. Then they got worse. Temperatures in Mexico were in the 90 degrees Fahrenheit range, which meant people were almost the same temperature as the jungle itself and were perfectly camouflaged in the Ranker thermal image. There was no contrast. Everything looked the same, a flat, uniform gray blur. The crew went into panic mode. They tried everything. Spraying the trees with ice-cold water to cool the background dock. Having actors stand next to campfires to raise their body temperature. Shooting only during the coldest mornings. Nothing worked. Eventually, they had to abandon real thermal cameras entirely. Instead, the effects team had to create the look by combining multiple types of cameras, special filters, and optical effects in post-production. It was expensive. It took months. And it wasn't in the original budget. But that wasn't the only visual effect that nearly killed the movie. The Predator's invisibility effect was a brilliant accident born out of desperation. No one knew how to make a 7-foot creature invisible in 1987. There was no CGI, no powerful computers. Everything had to be done with cameras and optical effects. The solution was clever, but incredibly labor-intensive. They put someone in a bright red suit the exact size of the Predator. They filmed the entire scene with the actors reacting to the red suit. They used chroma key, red, green screen, to optically remove the red color. They filmed the exact same shot again, but without actors and using a lens 30% wider. When both takes were combined, the area where the Predator stood was filled with the jungle background distorted by the lens difference. The result, that shimmering, almost liquid invisibility effect that became the film's visual signature. But every single shot required this double process. And in the jungle, where wind moved the leaves and the light constantly changed, aligning both takes was a technical nightmare. There were entire days when scenes were filmed and later thrown out because the optical effects didn't work. And all of this was happening while the budget was burning to the ground. By day 30 of filming in Mexico, morale was destroyed. Arnold Schwarzenegger, normally the most optimistic guy on any set, had gone quiet, exhausted. He had lost weight. He had skin infections from the constant mud. And he was starting to doubt whether this movie would actually work. There was a moment, covered in mud up to his neck, when he told director John McTiernan, "This is never going to work." It wasn't just pessimism. It was reality. They had been shooting for weeks and still didn't have a Predator that worked. The effects didn't look right. The local crew situation was chaotic. And no one knew whether the studio would keep funding the film. Carl Weathers, who played Dylan, nearly quit 3 times. Weathers was a serious actor. He had award nominations. He wasn't used to working under such extreme conditions with a first-time director and a monster that didn't exist. At one point, he told the producers, "You're asking me to react to nothing. There's no monster. There's no threat. I'm just sweating in the jungle." He was right. But then, the new Predator arrived. After 6 weeks of intense work in Los Angeles, Stan Winston had created something extraordinary. It wasn't a small man doing karate. It was a 7'2" creature made of pure physical menace. Winston had cast Kevin Peter Hall, a 7'2" actor with perfect proportions. The new suit was a masterpiece. Double jaws, alien dreadlocks, textured reptilian skin, eyes that actually glowed. When the new Predator arrived on set in Mexico, something changed. Arnold saw it and smiled for the first time in weeks. He said, "Now that's a monster." The energy came back. The crew saw that the movie could work. McTiernan finally had his villain. But filming with Kevin Peter Hall brought its own challenges. The suit weighed over 200 pounds with all the equipment. Kevin could only wear it for about 20 minutes before collapsing from the heat. It took a team of 4 people to put it on and take it off. And visibility inside was nearly zero, meaning every movement had to be choreographed with millimeter precision. There was one scene where the Predator jumps from a tree. Kevin couldn't see anything. He jumped blind, trusting the stunt team to catch him. He landed wrong. He twisted his ankle. But he kept filming because shutting down production again simply wasn't an option. With the new Predator finally working, production picked up speed. But something was still missing. The movie felt generic, just another action film with soldiers and explosions. During a break between takes, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers started joking around. Someone commented on who had the bigger arms. Arnold and Carl, both ridiculously competitive, began flexing and comparing muscles. Then, something unplanned happened. McTiernan wanted to introduce Dutch and Dylan as 2 alphas. No hugs. No smiles. Arnold and Carl Weathers suggested the handshake. They trained before the take, arms pumped, oil, real tension. Carl asked to repeat the scene. Not for acting, but so he wouldn't look smaller than Arnold. No dialogue. Just strength, ego, and rivalry.
You son of a bitch. What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?
That 30-second improvisation became one of the most iconic scenes of the 80s. And that's how one of the most testosterone-charged moments in action cinema was born.
Huh? Had enough?
Make it easy on yourself, Dutch. Okay.
Never did know when to quit, huh?
McTiernan saw it and immediately knew he had gold. He kept the cameras rolling, shot the handshake from multiple angles. It was wild. It was absurd. It was perfect. That scene changed the tone of the movie. Suddenly, Predator wasn't just another generic action film. It had personality. It had charisma. It had human moments that made audiences connect with the characters before the Predator took them out one by one. By the time they reached the climax where Arnold faces the Predator hand-to-hand, the budget was destroyed. Producers were getting daily calls from the studio asking when they would finally wrap. The scene where the Predator removes its mask almost didn't happen. Stan Winston had designed the creature's final face, but it was expensive to produce. The producers wanted to cut it from the script. No one needs to see what's under the mask, they argued. McTiernan refused. He threatened to quit if they didn't let him film the reveal. In the end, they gave in but only allowed him 2 hours to capture everything he needed, 2 hours to shoot one of the most iconic sci-fi moments of the 80s. Kevin Peter Hall, exhausted after months of brutal filming, gave everything he had. The alien mandibles moving, that chilling laugh mimicking Arnold. And finally,
What the hell are you?
it was done in a single take. There was no time for anything else. When Predator was finally released in June 1987, Fox executives weren't expecting much. It was just another summer action movie, competing against bigger films. But audiences loved it. Predator made $98 million at the box office, on a budget that had ballooned to nearly $18 million. It wasn't a mega hit, but it was enough. Enough to save the careers involved. Enough to create a franchise. What no one in that audience knew was what it had really cost to make that movie. 8 months of total shutdown. A complete creature design thrown away. Hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted on effects that didn't work. A crew that nearly rebelled. A first-time director who almost got fired. And Arnold Schwarzenegger covered in mud, telling everyone it would never work. But it worked. Sometimes the best movies aren't born from perfect plans. They're born from chaos, desperation, and a group of people refusing to quit, even when everything says they should. Predator isn't just a great action movie. It was a production miracle that almost never existed. And it wasn't an isolated case. Even Van Damme went through a true nightmare during Bloodsport. Accidents, injuries, and a chaotic production. Nothing was easy. Nothing was clean. Don't miss this video, where I break down the full behind-the-scenes nightmare that made this movie possible. Support the channel with a like and a subscription. I'll see you in that video.